Good afternoon and welcome to today's lecture on audit. This is the one day before the exam revision lecture for students preparing for the May and November final C examinations. So let's start with standards on auditing. I'll be making an attempt to make you memorize but not teach you in detail because it's a one day before the lecture. Many of you must be attending many classes and taking lectures, but let me tell you that none of the explanation is useful. It's pretty much useless until you have memorized it. So let's make a concise pattern how to memorize. The first standard on auditing is SA200, overall objectives of the independent auditor and conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing. So let's make a code word here. Many of you must have seen the movie Mission Impossible, where there's an actor called Tom Cruise. He has a name in the movie called Ethan Hunt, right? So let's imagine Ethan Hunt is giving an exam. You know, in India you have an exam of IAS level called UPSC. So let's imagine Ethan Hunt is giving a different exam called JPSC. It's a fictional exam for memory. EJPSC. Ethan Hunt is giving JPSC exam. So E is ethical requirement, J is professional judgment, P is professional skepticism, S is complying with standards on auditing, and C is conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing. Now the last part, C of JPSC, C has another code called SORF, SORF. Okay, so S is complying with standards on auditing, O is objectives stated in the standard on auditing, R is compliant with relevant requirement, and F is failure to attain these objectives. SORF, SORF, standards on auditing, objectives stated in the standard on auditing, R complying with relevant requirement, and F is failure to match the objectives. So ethical requirement. In ethical requirement, what does the auditor have to maintain? Independence, integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. So let's make a code word here. I offer Priyanka Chopra professional behavior. I will stand for independence and integrity. Offer O will stand for objectivity. Priyanka Chopra will stand for professional competence. Priyanka will stand for professional competence and due care. Chopra will stand for confidentiality. And professional behavior is another point. I offer Priyanka Chopra professional behavior. Independence, integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. Ethical requirements. Okay. Professional judgment, JPSC. Ethan Hunt का E हो गया. Now we come to JPSC. So J is professional judgment. Now when Tom Cruise is driving in a car in the movie, he drives pretty fast, so he might not know the way. He might require a map. So maps. M is materiality. A is audit risk. P is audit procedure. S is sufficiency and appropriateness audit evidence. So that is maps. Don't worry, at the comment of the video, I'll be mentioning the mnemonic and the explanation for the same. So it will be very easy for you. Maps. This is in J, JPSC, professional judgment. Materiality, audit risk, audit procedures, sufficiency and appropriateness audit evidence. Now while driving, he might need to stop his car and ask someone the way. So consultation. So in professional judgment, the auditor should also take consultation. Now J, now P, JPSC. P is professional skepticism. Skepticism, that means the auditor has to keep a doubtful approach. He has to be skeptical approach for any chances of ethical conflict or possibility of fraud, and reasonable assurance. So ethical conflict, chances of fraud, and reasonable assurance with respect to material misstatement. So JP, we did SC. Now S stands for complying with standards on auditing. That's a very general thing to mention as per your knowledge. C. The conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing. Conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing will have 4 points. SORF. So SORF. S will be the standards on auditing as we mentioned, or the general rules and regulations. O. Objectives. Objectives stated in the standard of auditing. So the objectives have to be present at the date of the balance sheet when you are doing the audit. Okay. Now complying with relevant requirement. Relevant requirement means either the entire standard on auditing is not applicable over here, or it is applicable subject to certain conditions, and whether those conditions are present or not. That is what the auditor has to check. So S, we did standards on auditing. O, objectives. R, relevant requirement. Now F, failure to have these objectives satisfied. That means the auditor will either withdraw from the engagement or modify the audit report. Okay. So SA200 is done. Don't worry, at the comment I'll explain the mnemonic and the explanation. Let's go to the next standard on auditing. SA210, agreeing the terms of audit engagement. So agreeing the terms of audit engagement, that means the auditor, let's make another mnemonic here for making it easier for you to memorize. ARM. AAM. So A means whether the management uses acceptable financial reporting framework. I'll just explain what the standard basically means. When you're agreeing to the terms of an audit engagement, that means before you take up the audit, do you accept the terms and conditions subject to which you should accept the audit, or you don't accept it? That means you withdraw from the engagement. So A is acceptable financial reporting framework, which has to be used by the management. And the next A is acknowledgement. By whom? By the management. So M. So acceptable financial reporting framework must be acknowledged by the management, AAM. And the auditor has to check whether the internal controls are strong enough to check any possibility of frauds, or whether the risk, whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement and they give a true and fair view. Okay, so that will make it very easy for you to memorize. Acceptable financial reporting framework, acknowledgement by the management, internal controls have to be strong to check frauds and errors, and the auditor will want unrestricted access to all information, additional information, and he will call on any persons which he requires to obtain additional information. That is like a consultation. So how to memorize this? Supposing you are doing an investigation, you enter a room, you want access to all information. Plus you might want some additional information. Now there is some information which you don't understand. So you will take consultation, right? That is, you'll call on professionals, experts to understand the things better. So we did that part. Now there are preconditions for the audit. If these preconditions are present, you accept the audit engagement. If they are not present, you withdraw from the audit engagement. Okay. Now, what all does the letter of engagement include when you accept the audit engagement? The objectives, scope, responsibility of management or auditor. This is my responsibility. This is management responsibility. So responsibility of management or auditor. Then identification of your FRF, that is your financial reporting framework. Now the expected form and content of the audit report which the auditor is supposed to give. And L is legal requirement, that is a statutory requirement, whether it's satisfied or not. So let's make a code here, OSRIFL. So what to make you memorize is O. भगवान खुद आके मतलब ओ श्री राम, ओ श्री खुद आके फल लेके चले गए. So O SRI Shri Fal FL. O is objectives, S is scope, R is responsibility of management or auditor. This is my responsibility. This is management responsibility. I is identification of financial reporting framework. F is the reference to the form and content to the audit report which the auditor has to issue. Then L is the legal requirement, whether there is any breach of conduct. Now if it's a recurring audit, so the auditor has to check whether there is any revision in the terms of the audit engagement. If there is a revision and that revision is acceptable, he will accept the audit engagement. If the revision to the audit engagement terms are not acceptable, then he will withdraw from the audit engagement. Okay, so there's a 15-minute limitation imposed on me by YouTube, as a result of which the next two standards on auditing will not be covered in this video because of a 15-minute limitation. So I'll be giving a fresh video for the same. Anyways, thank you for watching and all the best for your exam.